Hello everyone, welcome. I hope you're all doing well. Welcome to another lesson in our ongoing Spanish course. In this lesson, we are going to look at a very important Spanish verb, the verb preferir. It's a high frequency use verb, so you'll use it quite a bit when you speak Spanish. And it's also very useful, so I will show you later in this video how you can use this verb to maximize your ability to speak Spanish. So the verb preferir is what we call a stem changing verb, and it follows the pattern where the E changes to an IE when you conjugate it in the present tense. So it's a present tense stem changing verb. A little bit about the history. This verb comes from the Latin preferre, which means to carry in front. So when I learned this etymology, I thought it was quite interesting. If you can imagine you're leaving your home in a hurry, in some kind of emergency, you would probably carry your most valuable things with you and probably in front of you. So literally you prefer those things, so to speak. So this comes from the prefix pre, which is before or in front, and ferre, to carry. In French, there's a related verb, which comes from the Latin, which is préférer, préférer, to prefer. Of course, this is the Spanish verb preferir, to prefer. And in Italian, the verb is preferire. And of course, English, to prefer. Preferir is an irregular verb. It's a stem changer. And when you remove the IR from the infinitive, remember, infinitives end in either ER, IR, or AR in Spanish. So when you're staring at your infinitive and you want to find the root of that infinitive, simply remove the AR, ER, or IR. So in this case, it's the IR. And by removing the IR, we have our root. This is the root, or it's also referred to as the stem, the root or the stem. So when I conjugate the verb, in some of the forms, you're going to see the original root. And in some of the other forms, you're going to see the root that is altered, where the E changes to IE. So this is why we call it a stem changing verb. This is the stem, and sometimes it changes to this form here. So hence, stem changing verb. Okay, so let's go ahead and conjugate the verb in the present tense. We always start with our root or our stem, and then we add the ending. So you know for IR verbs, you've already memorized the endings. The ending in this case is O, but notice what happens when I add the O to the root. The stem changes. So we go from E to IE. There's the stem change. And the form, of course, is prefiero. Prefiero, I prefer. Prefiero. We have tú, the informal you. We start with our root, and we're going to add the ending, which is ES in this case. And notice, again, the E changes to an IE. There's the magic right there. That's the stem change. Prefieres. Prefieres means you prefer. This is the informal you, the tú. There's an alternate informal you that is used in South America, vos, primarily in the southern part of South America, in Argentina. They will use vos, and when you use vos, there is no stem change. So the form is preferís, vos preferís. So informally, if you want to say you prefer, for most Spanish speakers, it's going to be prefieres. But if you happen to be in South America, you'll hear the form or see the form preferís, vos preferís. Tú prefieres, vos preferís. You prefer. Tú prefieres, vos preferís. Now the usted, el, ella form, we start with our root and we add the ending, which is E. And notice, again, there's the stem change right there. Prefiere. Nosotros, we prefer. How do you say we prefer? Well, for the nosotros form, there is no stem change. That's just the rule. Preferimos, we prefer. Preferimos. Vosotros, this is the plural you that's used primarily in Spain. So plural, informal you. Also preferís. Vosotros preferís. you prefer. Ustedes, ellos, ellas form. We start with our root, and we add the ending, and there's that stem change again. The ending is en, prefieren. And there you have the verb conjugated in the present tense. So let's review the pronunciation. Prefiero, I prefer, prefiero. Prefieres, tú prefieres, or vos preferís. Usted prefiere, él prefiere, ella prefiere. So remember, usted prefiere is the formal you prefer. Él prefiere, he prefers. Ella prefiere, she prefers. Nosotros preferimos, we prefer. Vosotros preferís, you prefer. This is the plural informal you in Spain. Vosotros preferís. Ustedes prefieren, this is the plural you, either formal or informal. You prefer, ustedes prefieren. Ellos prefieren, they prefer, or ellas prefieren, they prefer. So this is the part that you have to memorize. There really is no way around it. You have to memorize the conjugation of the verb. Once you do that, then you can apply what you know, and that is where the fun begins. You can actually start using this in sentences. So let me show you how you can use this to begin communicating a multitude of ideas in Spanish. So the first structure that you'll see is a conjugated form of the verb and a noun. So the conjugated form of the verb followed by a noun. And we use this structure to indicate that we prefer something. So let's say you're at a restaurant and you have the option of el bistec, the steak, el pollo, the chicken, or la ensalada, the salad. And in this case, you have some options, so you can say which one you prefer. If you want to say, I prefer the steak, you would say, prefiero el bistec. Prefiero el bistec. Prefiero el bistec. If you want to say, I prefer the chicken, then you would say, prefiero el pollo. Prefiero el pollo. Prefiero el pollo. Or if you want to say, I prefer the salad, you would say, prefiero la ensalada. Prefiero la ensalada. Prefiero la ensalada. I prefer the salad. Let's try a different example with the same nouns, but different subject and verb form. So, ella prefiere means she prefers. If I want to say she prefers the steak, then I would say, ella prefiere el bistec. Ella prefiere el bistec. If I want to say she prefers the chicken, then I would say, ella prefiere el pollo. Ella prefiere el pollo. She prefers the salad. Ella prefiere la ensalada. Okay, before I move on to the next exciting use of the verb preferir, take a moment to think about this. Your ability in this situation to express ideas in Spanish is only limited by the number of nouns that you know. So the more nouns that you know, the more you can say. So for example, if you know other food items like the sandwich, for example, el sándwich, you can add that to the list. Ella prefiere el sándwich. Let's say tacos are on the menu. Los tacos, you could add that to the list and say she prefers the tacos. Ella prefiere los tacos. So I'm getting hungry now, but let's move on to the next exciting use of the verb preferir. And it really is exciting in the sense that if you understand how to use a conjugated form of preferir followed by a noun or an infinitive, you can express an almost limitless amount of ideas in Spanish. Your ability to communicate is so much better. Okay, so the next exciting use is to conjugate the verb preferir in the present tense and to follow it with an infinitive. And we use this structure to say that you or someone else prefers to do something. So if you want to express the idea to prefer to do something, conjugate preferir in the present tense and follow it with an infinitive. For example, I have a choice of resting studying, or going, maybe going somewhere. If I want to say I prefer to rest, then I would say prefiero descansar. Prefiero descansar. I prefer to study. Prefiero estudiar. Prefiero estudiar. I prefer to study. I prefer to go. Prefiero ir. Prefiero ir. And why did I place the abbreviation for etc. here? Well, it just means if you know more infinitives, you can express more ideas. So always, especially if you're a beginner with Spanish, learn as many infinitives as possible. They are very useful in these type of grammatical constructions. Okay, let's try another subject. We have ellos prefieren, they prefer. Ellos prefieren, what do they prefer to do? They prefer to rest. Ellos prefieren descansar. Ellos prefieren descansar. They prefer to study. Ellos prefieren estudiar. Ellos prefieren estudiar. They prefer to go. Ellos prefieren ir. Ellos prefieren ir. How about you prefer? Usted prefiere. This is the formal you. You prefer to go. Usted prefiere ir. You prefer to study. Usted prefiere estudiar. You prefer to work. Usted prefiere trabajar. How about a question? Remember to ask a yes or no question. You reverse the word order here. So we have our subject and our verb form here in the statement. In the question, it's the verb form first and then the subject pronoun. So, prefiere usted? Do you prefer to go? Prefiere usted ir? Do you prefer to study? ¿Prefiere usted estudiar? Do you prefer to work? ¿Prefiere usted trabajar? And there you have it. I hope you found all of these examples helpful. Let's sum up the lesson with this. Remember, you can use a conjugated form of preferir in the present tense with a noun to say that you prefer something. You can use a conjugated form of preferir in the present tense followed by an infinitive to say that you prefer to do something. And that's it. You're only limited by the nouns that you know and the infinitives that you know. You can express a lot of ideas with this one verb. The only thing left to say is felicidades. You made it to the end of this lesson. Congratulations. Felicidades. So if you found this helpful, I would appreciate it very much if you'd give it a like. To continue learning and go on to another lesson, click on the video that appears here on your screen. See you soon. Hasta pronto.